This is my mom, Lori Coda. Mom, say hi.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so Mom, how do you help kids with autism?
I'll explain how I help kids with autism in the past and how I help kids with autism currently. I started out as a teacher for autistic kids back in 1986, so if you do that math, that was a very, very long time ago. And in those days, autistic kids were put in classes with emotionally disturbed kids. And they didn't teach social skills. So after years and years of teaching children with autism, I got into social skills training and started my own social skills programming. And I did that for years, and I hooked up with a very famous doctor of autistic kids, and I did social skills training, and I did behavioral evals and educational consulting for autistic kids. And then I found out about a thing called neurofeedback, and that's what I currently do. And basically neurofeedback is brain exercise, and it's not just for kids with autism, but for a variety of disabilities such as ADD, ADHD, autism, anxiety. And basically what you do when you do neurofeedback is you do a brain map, and with a brain map it's a QEEG, and you measure the electrical activity that goes on in the brain by putting on an electrocap and filling the cap with gel and recording the EEG. And then I send it out for doctors to interpret, and they analyze the electrical activity that goes on in the brain, and they set neurofeedback protocols. And with neurofeedback, basically we do brain exercise, and that is operant conditioning of the brain. We reward the brain for producing the brain activity we want to do. So when I put the electrodes on my clients, it records the EEG. When the brain produces the electrical activity I want it to produce, the video plays. And when it doesn't produce the activity that I want to produce, it freezes. When we do neurofeedback, it improves many, many symptoms such as sustained attention, anxiety, relatedness, speed of processing, conversational skills, social skills. There are many, many, many positive changes from doing neurofeedback.
What is your job in the diagnosis? Like, how do you help?
I do not diagnose anybody. My clients come to me with diagnosis already. Diagnosis must be made from an MD doctor. What I do is I implement protocols with the neurofeedback from the doctors. So the doctors do the analysis, the doctors do the diagnosis, and I just follow through with the treatment.
How do most families react to the diagnosis?
It's usually devastating news, like a death in a family, and most families have to go through a mourning process, a grieving process, before they can accept and start to help their children.
What are the outcomes of neurofeedback? Positive, negative?
I've had 100% positive outcomes from neurofeedback. I've had nonverbal kids start to be able to talk. Kids who have had stilted language have better conversational flow. Kids that were turned inward and unrelated start to relate and become interested in other people. I've had kids with zero attention have increased attention. I've had children with the speed of processing sped up so that the conversational flow sped up, relatedness speeds up. One positive outcome after another.
What are some causes and treatments for children with autism?
It's really, really interesting. Of course, at this point in time, we don't know the cause of autism. But I can tell you, after being in the field over 25 years, there's multiple causes to autism. There's environmental factors, there's heredity, and there's genetic. So, environmentally speaking, in this society where we have two working parents, many of the foods that we have preservatives in it. Many of the supplies that we use for building have pesticides in it. Pesticides are also dropped on farmland, so there's pesticides in our food. and there is lead in the paint and other kind of toxins that are in the building materials. So, environmentally speaking, we have the pesticides. Genetically speaking, we haven't found a genetic link yet, but there's definitely a genetic factor in autism. I often find that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, so children who are on the spectrum of autism usually have a family member that has some symptoms, not necessarily autism, but might be socially off or might be hyper-focused on different activities. So it definitely has a genetic factor. Environment, genetics, is the third one that I said.
Want me to ask you the next question?